Good afternoon, everybody. Rich Suggs here with Radio from the Road here on WKDW 97.5 FM and KDWRadio.com. I am up here in the frozen north. It got down to about 28 degrees last night. High today of 44 degrees here in Franklin. Having a wonderful time. I'll just say that. We are probably heading back here in the next couple of days, just because, things are starting to get to the point where I can control things at home and get some stuff accomplished. We are looking at about 80, let me see, I have that 81 degrees currently in Northport, Florida. Feels like 87 degrees. But you're going to get a low of 56 degrees. I think that's tonight. 56 by tomorrow morning. The next 10 days, let's take a quick look at 10 days out. We have, this is Northport, Florida. Yes, it is. We're looking at highs in the mid 70s. Lows in the 50s through Thursday, then Friday 78 and 60, back up to Saturday and Sunday 83 and 86. But it's not wintertime in Florida, and so you're just going to have to get through those. I will tell you that the nighttime lows look like they're going to be in the mid 60s, which is a good temperature for Florida. And so just enjoy that. Maybe you can turn the air conditioning off a little bit and start opening up your windows if that is possible. So today I have some special guests here with me. We have Matthew Jones, he works in insurance. Kevin Graham, he is a title agent, and Daniel Hughes, Hughes is a mortgage broker locally in Northport, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda area. And I just wanted to bring them on and reiterate. You've heard me talk about it for probably 2 or 3 weeks. I've brought on contractors on the show and told why it's important to be able to get local help. But, there's a little bit more information, and hopefully we'll get all of it discussed. But guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us.
All right, so I will just sit there and call out your name just for the people that are watching us on StreamYard. So if you have Facebook or you have YouTube for KDWRadio.com or WKDW 97.5 FM, you can find this on Facebook or YouTube, and it is streamed to there. So you'll see faces along with voices. Unfortunately, I'll have to inquire. I don't know right now if it's on our website per se, but regardless, Daniel, raise your hand.
Here. I'm right here.
All right, good deal. All right, so Matthew Jones, raise your hand.
Right here.
Okay, and then obviously Kevin is the one in the middle. So, all right, so that area just went through a 4.95 category hurricane and sustained quite a bit of damage. So part of that damage is internet availability. Watched a very interesting Governor DeSantis had a press conference, and one of the major concerns is basically internet. And so we're having that issue right now as we speak. They are located in an office, and whose office is it?
It's mine, and some just one title.
Okay, so it is in Kevin's office, and so one of the things we're having is that sometimes their sound comes in and out. Hopefully you will be able to hear. And every once in a while, if we are having it on video, it kind of freezes up a little bit. But such is life after a 4.95 category hurricane. So guys, I'm kind of displaced from the action right now. I'm up here in North Carolina, but we've got an estimated 300,000 to 400,000 homes that have been adversely affected in the Southwest Florida area from Hurricane Ian. And you can understand people getting very, very frustrated and having to live with a lot of inconvenience, and they want to get their life back to normal. And so somebody comes by and helps them out, and tries to get them to say, well, I can fix this and I can do that. Might sound very enticing, but you guys have got to help me convince these people that's not the right thing to do.
No, there's a lot going on. One, unlicensed contractors, and even if they're licensed in another state, doesn't mean they know anything about Florida building codes. And honestly, if it weren't for Florida building codes that were enacted after Hurricane Andrew and then later on after Hurricane Charlie, I don't think you would have to be 400,000 or 500,000 homes. I think we could done that. So the fact is these codes matter, and not only these people maybe they don't know what they're doing. Not to say that they don't know what they're doing up in northern states, but in Florida we have a different code. And on top of it, let's face it, not everybody that's here is. Well, they don't have your best interest at heart. They have their own interest at heart. You have to be careful about that as well. So those are my 2 words of caution.
Yeah, I would definitely add on that, especially in the city of Punta Gorda too, because when you pull permits in the county, in Charlotte County, you usually pull them with the county. But is to my understanding and knowledge is that city of Punta Gorda has their own inspectors and permits too, and that is really, really big when you're rebuilding, when you're especially doing all these roofs right now that have been destroyed. People come in and they'll say, oh, well, yeah, I'm licensed in this. Even if they're licensed in the state, they have to be certified in the city of Punta Gorda to work in the city. And so that's a big thing. And just be careful. Always ask for, a certificate of insurance, and always ask to see it, and ask for their workers' comp is really, really a big thing. And we have a wonderful association called the CDBIA here in town, and you can always call up the CDBIA. I know Donna and Elena Dumas will answer any questions that people may have.
Yes.
The thing is, you can check their licensing on the county and the city websites. So if they're registered with Charlotte County, if you're not in the city, then you go to the Charlotte County Building Department website. You can look up their registration, and it will include the fact that they have the insurance, that they have, some liability insurance, workers' comp, whatever. And as the city will do the same thing, I believe.
And it's very interesting. You said that they might be excellent roofers from, just throw a state out there, and I'm not casting dispersions on Minnesota, but Minnesota might have different, codes on how to, how many nails per shingle you need, how many nails per underlayment, how much, it's just so much. And I tell you, a lot of people have kind of gone. Because of all the damage, I'm hearing a lot of my friends say, well, I'm just going to put a metal roof on. That's a whole different animal. And maybe they don't do, metal roofs in Minnesota. I don't know. I'm not from Minnesota. But you need to be able to put it on here, and you need to put it to the code here. And we do appreciate, listen, I appreciate the fact that people want to come down here and help. I really do. And maybe if you went to a licensed contractor here in the area, they could use your assistance, and maybe even to the point where you could get your whole crew. But they're going to have somebody there that can tell you, no, this is how we have to have it done here. It's not going to pass inspection.
It's
Um,
true.
you know, I'm hearing some very big horror stories from Irma. Now, Irma was in 2017, and people needed, you know, whether it was pool cages or whether it was roofs or whatever, and the same kind of situation. People do not understand, why are we trying to chase away? Why are we chasing away help when help is needed so bad? And
Rich, I would say to interrupt you for a second. I had a friend that was a contractor in Michigan and in Florida, and he said there's a huge difference. He said, you know, up there in Michigan, we have to hold the roofs up. In Florida, we have to hold them down, and that's a big difference.
there you go. So there is a difference. He obviously knew because he was licensed in both states, but you know, it's not that we're not wanting people to get help, but and I believe I was talking to a contractor friend of mine. He was actually at a location doing a kitchen remodel, and that's the kind of stuff that he does. Now he is a licensed general contractor, but he doesn't want to do exterior. Well, someone was putting on a roof. I mean, blue tarps next door, and so the inspectors came, chased him away. Whatever they did to him, I wasn't really worried about that. But the landowner or the homeowner came out yelling at the inspectors and said, "Why are you chasing my help away?" Well, there was also a story that came around that in Venice, a lady was in her house after the storm, and she had to have a tarp put on, and they put it on wrong, and the ceiling fell in on her.
Yeah, I heard that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, and here's the thing too. I wouldn't even say, you know, you could take it out, and we all appreciate help here from everybody trying to help. And I tell people this too. Everybody makes money in different situations, right?
Right.
And it's unfortunate that, you know, people do make money in distraught times like this, and that's fine. But the biggest thing is that they just don't, they think they know, but unfortunately they just don't know. So to protect you, your family, and your asset, you have to do the due diligence on sometimes people that you may not want to, but you have to. And
well, I will just say this also, and I'll be interested if you're hearing the same thing. You know, this is supposedly the largest hurricane ever to hit the, you know, as far as damage wise, ever to hit the state of Florida. You know, we just went through, you know, I'll just say that Matthew could probably talk at length about this. We had an issue this past year. I was part of that where my insurer went out of the state or called, you know, contacted me and said, "We're leaving the state. We're dropping you, blah, 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 blah." Right. And so now I'm with a brand new insurance company, and I'm already hearing reports of them not paying 100%, even though they are supposedly have replacement costs. And I guess there's a law, Matthew, you can talk to this probably more than I can, that the legislature a few years ago put in a 80% cap rule.
yeah, and they did, and they also passed a bill which was called SB2 a couple of years ago too, which put in different guidelines as well to try and help the carriers. But like you were saying, those carriers, there were a lot of them that were already like down in the, you know, in muddled water. And unfortunately, like your carrier, they went out. And there's a lot of carriers that were sitting on the verge that those carriers are probably going to go out too, you know.
Yeah.
But that's why those carriers get admitted and checked out by the state of Florida. That's why it's important, I say, as an agency owner, to make sure that you try to get coverage with an admitted carrier. Because in the event that they do go out of business like this and they can't pay the claims, they're admitted for a reason. And that's because the state of Florida gives them a certificate to do business here. So the state of Florida will back them. And that's why you have different programs in place. And that's why you also have citizens as well.
Now, do you know whether or not we've heard reports that FEMA is basically deferring to insurance companies, and so if you are underinsured or uninsured, FEMA is there to help you, but not really for the insured person. Would that be a point to where if your insurance company kind of went insolvent here in the middle of all of this, you could go to somebody like FEMA?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people to call and say, hey, unfortunately, I had a couple people that the policies lapsed during all of this, right? Maybe they didn't pay their premium, or their carrier went out of business and they didn't get a new policy before they were supposed to. They didn't get it with a new carrier, so they didn't. So I refer them to FEMA all the time. And
but somebody that's going out of business though first would go to the state, wouldn't they?
right, somebody that like if it was in the middle of this turmoil right now, and the carrier went like out of business, that's when I was saying before that they would have the state to back that up and fulfill those claims the best that they could.
Right.
But I would always refer somebody to FEMA. Hey, if you don't think you have enough coverage or you don't have coverage at all, absolutely apply to FEMA. I do know of a couple people that have applied to FEMA already, and FEMA has been super responsive.
If your carrier goes out of business, can you call the Department of Financial Services, or how do you get the state to back up your carrier?
Well, they do with the admin fee already, but yeah, I mean, the state would definitely know if they were going out of business because they have to
you
let
just
the
call
state.
that carrier's number then?
You have to, yeah.
Okay.
You would call that carrier's number and it would be routed, or you'd call the state, the Department of Financial Services, and those carriers like UPC went out of business, not too long ago, and a lot of people were scrambling. They weren't renewing their policies, and so we have the Insurance Village here in town, helping people out where you can file claims. Well, the Department of Financial Services, if you go to Insurance Village, will help file those UPC claims.
Right.
Okay. So if you're like, hey, I don't have UPC, they're not here, well, it's because, they may be somewhere else. They don't have enough staff anymore, something like that. You can file your claim with the Department of Financial Services.
So, there's quite a few on the news. If you get into the Inglewood, you get into the Northport. Now, not that there's not residential, normal sticks and bricks type housing, but for a large portion of it, it was the mobile home communities that are just like devastated and so much damage there. And, we've already seen the Gasparilla mobile home park down there at Placida basically just give up the ghost and say, everybody needs to move. We're not going to do this anymore. I don't know. I've talked to some of my clients and some of my friends that have, mobile home manufactured homes. After a certain date, they weren't allowed to get, hurricane insurance or even homeowners insurance. And so, those are the kinds of people that probably really should pay attention to FEMA. And that, if it's not for a fact of you were negligent, you decided you didn't want the expense of paying for homeowners insurance, they just wouldn't write it for you, then, I think there should be some kind of safety net there. But, I'll be honest with you, a lot of those people that live out on the coast, well, I won't say a lot. There is a percentage of people that live out on these barrier islands that either, are self-insured or whatever. I sure don't want to see a lot of money from FEMA going to them. I'm sorry. That's not the people that they should be. If they're self-insured, then they're self-insured. But that's just my public opinion, and I'll stand behind my opinion. So.
Regarding FEMA, so my brother lives in a manufactured home right off of Biscayne, and they evacuated and had flood insurance in a high-risk flood zone, so much that the bridge on Biscayne by the Ace Hardware there on the Port Charlotte side collapsed. He had about 4.5 to 5 feet of water in his yard just knocking on the front door. To go back to what Matt said, FEMA is stepping in over his insurance companies. to a certain extent. The minute he filed for FEMA, I would say within 8 days they had an adjuster out there, and she was looking over the property, looking over the damage, and so forth.
Right.
FEMA is acting very quickly, and I'm very surprised to see her get out there that quick, the adjuster for FEMA. And so they are definitely being proactive, and they're trying to support these companies. I think his flood company came out, and then FEMA was like 2 days later. So whatever the flood company was not going to cover, FEMA was there to back them up. And so I think to Matt's point, apply for everything. He said it before and a few other things. Apply, file the claim, apply for FEMA. You just don't know. And some people are coming in and saying there's nothing wrong, and then a different person comes in and says, no, your house needs to be completely gutted. So yeah, I think going to Matt's point, you got to really, really apply in FEMA. Well, hats off to them, are acting very quickly from my experiences.
Well, and I guess I could say that that's something I could approve of with our federal government. There's very few things, if you know what I mean. So, but all right. So and I understand you're in the business, and so I don't know if you really desire to speculate on what could happen, but just personally, I saw over $1,000 increase in my homeowners. Now I have a 2007 home. I had an original roof, so but I also had wind mitigation, hurricane shutters on all my windows and doors, but I still saw $1,000 a year increase in my premium this year. I'm just almost having nightmares on what that could be for the upcoming year. Now, luckily, I don't renew mine until July of next year. But is there any speculation? I mean, does anybody care to speculate on what you might see in this market?
It's going up. It's going to go up. I mean, I remember Hurricane Charlie, and let's face it, after that, you have to basically, it's a business, and the insurance companies are going to raise their premiums to raise their reserves and have a bigger war chest for the next one. So I think it's going to come up. I mean, I remember seeing hearing after hearing insurance companies that wanted to raise their rates, and then we had, well, honestly, back then the state was, you always have to get approval from the state for your rate increases, right?
Correct.
I'm going to defer to him as the insurance agent, but my experience was they were locking down insurance rates and trying to tell the insurance companies they couldn't raise their rates. And so instead, what you saw was a lot of insurance companies left the market back then, and we had like 3 insurance companies left.
Right.
So, right now we have more than that, and hopefully we'll continue to have more than that. But
yeah, we do have more than that right now. We have enough right now. We have plenty. However, we were already seeing an insurance frenzy, if I would say, with the different litigation going on up in Tallahassee with legislation, the issue with roofs, with, hey, my insurance carrier is not accepting roofs over 10 years old. This year, legislation passed a great bill. I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's going to be the cure, but I think it's a step to say, hey, if you have a roof that's 15 years old, a carrier cannot deny you or cancel. You would need to have an inspection done to show that there's at least 5 years left. So I think that was a step in the right direction. But there was already a frenzy with all that, with carriers going out of business. And with carriers' reinsurance policies, because they all have insurance carriers that back them. So with this loss, in order for them to stay afloat, they're going to need to make up for it. So I would 100% see carriers raise rates.
Any percentage?
I don't know what percentage. They're all different. So it's going to all be different. I read an article the other day. There were 2 insurance carriers that said that 2 or 3 carriers that said that they were well equipped for the hurricane, and that the money that they had put aside, they feel like when this hurricane's over that they will still be okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
So that, I mean, that was one article with a couple different carriers. It's really going to depend truly on what carriers wrote in these areas and how much liability they had in these areas. Those carriers may even pull out too of these zip codes.
Is there? I mean, I obviously, if you look at the plethora of damage that we had here in Florida, the majority of that was within a mile or two of the coastline, especially, on the bad side of the storm or on the right side of the storm where that water was rushing in. Northport and Inglewood and a lot of Port Charlotte never saw the storm surge flooding. We saw more freshwater flooding. But, I mean, is there – and I'm speculating and I'm kind of going off into the weeds, but, when you put everybody in the same bucket, I'm paying – I really didn't have any damage per se. And yet I'm going – my rates are going to increase to pay for the people that did that are close to the beach or living on the beach. And I'm just wondering, is there a way they could sit there and say, okay, you're in a completely different group, if you're on a barrier island, say, and you're going to have to find insurance from a insurance company willing to take that risk and a reinsurance company that's willing to take that risk. And your insurance premiums might be $20,000, but that's the price for living on a barrier island, I guess. Whereas I'm living in a zone E in Northport, receive very little wind damage, pool screen, and no flooding whatsoever. But yet I might see a $4,000 or $5,000 increase in my premiums. I'm going to be pissed. I'll be honest with you.
Well, it kind of goes to a lot of people don't, and Matt can speak further on this about the flood changes.
Mm-hmm.
When the flood maps, when they get up, but a lot of people don't realize how flood started working on averages over as it doesn't matter if you're elevated 15 feet in the air compared to 2 feet below. And Matt can speak further on that. And that was a big thing coming from the mortgage side. I'll tell you, a lot of people haven't heard me say this, but 6 months ago, before all the legislation passed, we were paying mortgage prices, and their field correlates to our field, meaning you
guys, y'all are breaking up to where we can't really hear you. I mean, it's like every third word we're hearing. I understand. I mean, I know that's a self-interest comment that I made, but it is what it is. I think there's a lot of people in that same issue. I mean, you wouldn't think of Arcadia as somewhere that is really affected by hurricanes, but Hurricane Charlie devastated Arcadia, and the flooding from the fresh water literally cut off almost every single road in Arcadia and DeSoto County. So I don't know. If we can, I would like to really touch on assignment of benefits. I think that's where people are getting into issues with, with contractors. And I think that kind of led into a lot of our issue with, the insurance messing up in the last 5 or 6 years, is because a lot of people just signed assignment of benefits to these roofing contractors, and they just basically screwed carriers.
You're 1,000% correct. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So you're absolutely correct. And assignment of benefits, you're really assigning. Well, first of all, they're no longer exist. So never sign an AOB. If you see them, they can say it would be assignment of benefits or AOB. Do not sign them whatsoever, because what you're doing is you're signing over basically everything that you have and own to that roofer. And they're saying that in the event that they don't get the money, whatever's in that contract, you're paying. Okay? So they'll tell you, and these are the roofing contractors and the scheme people that I don't like. So they'll tell you, just sign it right here. I'm going to get the money from your insurance carrier. And 60, 70, there was a 90-year-old lady in Cape Coral from Hurricane Irma that it happened to. She signed it over, and she was like in debt over $100,000 for a roof, for some contracting on a roof and some extra work. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Do not ever do that, because you can have them come out, tarp your home, okay, maybe have them give you a price. Again, check out their credentials. Okay, going back to that. I would never ever don't ever sign an assignment of benefits. They're no good. If someone tries to give it to you, just say that, I appreciate you trying to help. Right now we're still reviewing our options, and go somewhere else.
Absolutely. It's always smart. I mean, the old adage, you should always get 3, quotes on anything. I don't care if your car gets dented or your house gets destroyed. You should always get at least 3. And it gives you time to kind of say, well, I was looking through Facebook, and somebody said that they got a couple of quotes from roofers, and one was $20,000 more than the other. Yep. And this was just locally, just recent, and they just couldn't understand it. And so, it gives you that time of pause to kind of look and say, something doesn't smell right here. Why is one person $20,000 more than the other? If you're asking just for a asphalt shingle roof or whatever.
And the insurance companies, to that point, the insurance carriers know about generally how much it costs per square to do a roof, whether it's architectural shingle, curved tile, cement, cement tile, metal roof, depending on the different types of metal roofing, whatever. They all have a program that I would say 90% of these contractors use, and it's they plug all the stuff in there, and it gives them a range on what they can go for. And as the supply and the demand rises, that is going to change in the program as well. Okay?
Right.
And so I understand once a roofer, it's just I always relate it to bringing your car to get fixed, right? You bring your car to get fixed after an accident, and they say, this is what the damages are. The adjuster comes out. Well, then once the mechanic or the body shop take a look at it, they're like, listen, after we took this apart, we see X, Y, and Z, so we're going to need more money. Well, it's the same thing with roofs. Once they peel back the shingles and they say, oh, well, now we see that 15 plywood are ruined and we have to replace insulation and that, then they can submit to the carrier for supplemental with pictures, with evidence. And carriers are not going to pay if there's no evidence and no documentation. So, yeah, a roof can be more, but you got to document it.
Well, and also, there's a whole bunch of different things that are going on out there. And, if you need to get a roof, I don't know of any place in the state that doesn't require you to get a permit. But if you have an unlicensed roofer, they're going to come up with something. Well, it's probably a lot faster and a lot cheaper for you to go get that permit, right? And you can be your own contractor in the state of Florida. So why don't you go pick that permit up? I'm so busy, I don't have time, blah, blah, blah. Well, all of those assignment of liability now goes on to you. If you are the contractor, and if that person doesn't have workers' compensation, if that person or that group doesn't have liability insurance, and, I don't know what a roofer could do, but let's just say they drive their truck into your neighbor's yard and mess it up or knock something down, you're responsible for that because they might not have liability insurance. If somebody falls off your roof and gets hurt, you're responsible for that, and you're going to pay for their injuries.
Yeah, even if they are working for the roofer, if that roofer doesn't have workman's comp, they fall off the roof, it's your liability, especially if you pulled a permit yourself.
Right. So you're the insurance agent, Matthew, and I don't know that you deal with anything other than, property and casualty. I don't know that you deal anything with workers' comp, but you might know, just from the sake of, what could a homeowner expect? What should they ask for from a contractor? Can they get additionally insured, be put on their liability insurance or whatever? from the licensed contractor?
No, so when you have a contractor come out and do work, if they're properly licensed and insured, their policy, their general liability policy, automatically covers them to work on your property. Okay, so and that general liability would cover if anything happened, especially with faulty work as well. Their workman's comp would cover if their guys get hurt on your property. Okay, because workman's comp is when you, like, if I'm working for Kevin and I get hurt at the title office and I'm an employee, so if it's an employee of the contractor, that's when workman's comp kicks in. If it's not, if it's just somebody walking by and gets hurt, that is not workman's comp. That is general liability. Okay, so I would just always ask the contractor to see their updated insurance documents. Including workman's comp, absolutely, as you guys just touched on, and just make sure that properly licensed and insured. You can have a certificate for you to be put on their policy. No, that's not. They're already insured for that. It's a blanket, it's for what they do. But you could ask them to see an updated certificate, and a certificate would show the date that it was printed.
Okay. And so that's not something you should be embarrassed to ask for, and it's not a situation that they're not hearing all the time. They should and probably do expect you to ask that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it just on a normal job, like regardless of a hurricane or not. If I'm having someone do some major work to my house, I want to make sure that they are insured, because let's say everything does go right. There's no workman's comp claim. There's no bystander walking by, slipping and fall. What if their work becomes faulty? Right? Now, as I've seen, like the business industry of the state put out, I kind of like this. You've already been through one bad storm. Why do you want to go through another? So even if it's just a regular roof and it had nothing to do with the hurricane, I would still ask, because their general liability will cover their faulty work.
Okay. So let me ask you this. You mentioned, now, I would strongly advise against hiring someone that's not familiar with Florida building code. So even if they're outside of the state, but like you said, what happens if someone here hires a contractor that's out of, say, Tallahassee or Jacksonville, and they come in and do the work? Now, they do know Florida building codes, but let's just say, for the sake of this argument, something goes wrong, and 2 years from now you get a leak. Where would you go? How would you get your warranty taken care of with somebody like that?
If it's a local contractor that subcontracts work to somebody else in a different area, Tallahassee, Orlando, then I'm asking that local contractor for their insurance. Okay, because once I sign a contract with that local contractor, whoever they hire to put on my job, they are responsible for.
But if there's no subcontracting there, it was just someone coming into town with a couple of crews, and they're from Jacksonville.
And they're from Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I mean, they're licensed to do work in the state of Florida, so I would definitely, again, get their insurance and get all that. And if something does go wrong, you now have that certificate that we talked about before with all their insurance credentials on it, as well as their insurance agent, like myself, as well as their information.
Plus, you want to get the registration information from the city or the county, because it'll have all of their, you want to keep that. You want to know where to reach them and where to find them. And there's something that I know that Donna from the Builders Association mentioned yesterday, is by legislation, there's a 210 warranty, and it's something about 2 years and 10 years. So that there is some workmanship warranties on houses that I think it might be on new builds, but I don't know exactly all of the rules on that.
And they can't just come into the city and just pull a permit if they want to. They have to register with the cities to pull permits. And just like you said, the minute they register, you have a lot of their information right then and there. So if they legitimately pulled a permit you're going to see who pulled it, what the name of the company is, and have their contact information, right? So the city of Northport's not going to let somebody just come pull a roof permit from Tallahassee. They actually
Right.
have to register with the city of Northport. So you'll have a lot of checks and balances as well. But
And a big thing too, and when the job is over, make sure that they close out that permit as well. I mean, that's a big thing, is that you'll get, if you hire a contract, it's okay if you want to hire a contractor from Orlando and they register or whatever, when they're done with the job, make sure they don't go back to Orlando and don't close out the permit, because different cities, different counties have different rules. And they require you here to take certain steps to close out those permits. I actually sit on this CBIL board for the county, which is the licensing construction board for the county. And when people get fines and fees, the biggest thing that we always see is contractors do not close out permits. And that stinks for the homeowner, because now what if they want to go sell the house?
and
I
that's
can't
and
because
that's
the title issue.
title comes into play. The segue to that. Kevin is going to make sure that those permits are closed. So anybody buying and selling, they have to go through title to make sure that those permits have been closed out.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. So if you're looking to sell your home or buy a home, even if you're doing it for sale by owner, contact Suncoast One and get a title search done. You have to get that done. Coming from anywhere, I don't care if you're doing a cash deal or not, get title work done, because our jobs in the next 3 to 6 months are going to get a lot harder. There's going to be a lot more to catch, in my opinion, just because there's going to be so much work that we got to make sure it got done. And then on Kevin's side of things, we got to make sure those permits were closed and done properly.
Okay. All right. So let's. I mentioned this to all three of you. We have Matthew Jones. He is a insurance. What is the name of your insurance company?
My agency is called Jones Family Insurance down in Punta Gorda.
And then we have Kevin Graham with a title company. And what's the name of your company?
Suncoast One Title and Closings.
Okay. And then we have Daniel Hughes, who is a mortgage broker. And the name of your company?
It's Bayport Lending.
Okay. So three very knowledgeable, very professional guys in that industry. And let me just say, you're hearing a lot of things, and sometimes things that are counterintuitive happen. And you would think hurricane, lots of damage. Nobody's going to want to move to Florida. There was an article that came out of the Wall Street Journal today, and it says home buyers flock to Florida cities devastated by Hurricane Ian. Now, I mentioned this to them earlier. And, Florida is a big place, and I don't necessarily, it says to Florida cities devastated. Well, some of the Florida cities devastated are, Port Charlotte, Northport, Inglewood, obviously Fort Myers, Cape Coral, down there into Naples even. And I asked about that. Now, Wall Street Journal up in New York have already reported on this. Are y'all seeing that at all?
Not yet. I don't see it yet, Rich. Honestly, our business, and I'm imagining Daniel's business as well right now, is very off. Let's face it. Everything that we had going in the last 30 days, a lot of it canceled, a lot of it delayed. And then, basically the inventory that's standing that people could buy is in high demand. But I think right now, most of the people that own are just getting out of that shell shock, and they're just getting out of the how do I handle all the insurance claims and the repairs and things like that. So I see that it has just started to where we're getting contracts back in, but I think it'll be a while before we get back to normal rates of business. The investors will be here. That is after Charlie back. That's 18 years ago, but after Charlie, we saw an influx of investors that came in. They were fix and flip kind of people. They would fix up the house and, turn around and sell them and make some margin on them and things like that. And we're going to see that. It's already started probably this week, but it's not the influx that the Wall Street Journal seems to mention.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the influx right now, but like Kevin said, I do see it happening. I have seen on the internet a couple homes that are like it says like hurricane damage, like maybe they didn't have insurance, right? So now they're
Right.
like, I just gotta take my loss and get out of here and get something that I can get with it before the loss gets worse. So, I mean, I wasn't here for Charlie. I moved just after Charlie down here, but like Kevin, I definitely see it happening, and it's kind of hard right now to get a home, especially if you want insurance, especially if you need a mortgage, because like Kevin just said, everybody's coming out of the shell shock, and they want to see the mortgage people want to see what damages are into the house, if it's livable, and we can speak to that. On the insurance side, there's only one carrier that will take a home with an open claim. So if all these people are filing claims, it's going to kind of be hard for them to get insurance unless they just go to the state-backed citizens, carrier. And a lot of people don't want that. These new roofs, even if it's a cash deal, the insurance carriers don't want to take on someone's liability, even if it's a cash deal.
So let me ask you this: as far as an investor, I mean, people that invest in this kind of thing are have an element of risk assessment or acceptance. So how many of these would probably, I guess it's kind of like going to Vegas, right? How many times are you going to roll craps, or how many times are you going to hit 21 and blackjack? But they're willing to do it. So these investors are coming in getting these really good deals on damaged property, and they're fixing and flipping. How many of them might say, "Oh, I'll just, be self-insured"?
Well, and the ones with the one thing you're going to see is you'll see the hedge fund, the big money people that will come in, and they'll buy up inventory, and they will not worry about insuring it because they will be self-insured because they have the deep pockets. And then they're gonna bankroll the repairs, and they'll probably have their own crews that they bring in, because the other thing that we're going to see is a shortage of manpower. As much as we talk about getting a local contractor, if you can, the fact is that there's not enough of them to go around. But yeah, there'll be those people, and it's going to start. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be selling out at lowball offers. And I would tell you, just like we said about everything else, be careful. Don't take the first person that comes along, the first offer that comes along. Watch out what you're doing. Get some professional advice. Maybe talk to a realtor. Realtors know what they're doing. Get the estimate for repairs. Know what your house is worth on the market fixed, and what is it going to cost to get it back there, and make your decision that way. But there's going to be those people that are just overwhelmed and tired and don't want to fight through the repairs, and they're going to sell out, and somebody else is going to fix that house for them.
Well, and also too, I heard Dan talk about this and things. I think there, if someone maybe was self-insured, right, and they didn't have a mortgage, and like, well, how am I going to pay $60,000 to fix my stuff? And there's programs, Dan. I mean, I would tell them.
Yeah, there's renovation lending out there where people can get into renovation loans. There's displaced loans for people that have been displaced completely. We've actually taken 4 of those applications this week where they've lost everything, and now they're able to rebuy a home. But what Matt's talking about, there's renovation loans out there. But going back to it is, yeah, you need that contractor has to be licensed, insured. They got to have the work done in so much time. So there's going to be those boundaries as well, but there's options for people. And I also want to say real quick, back to your first question, Rich, I think the demand is going to change here quite drastically, because right now we're in a higher rate environment. Right now it's slowing down. Even outside of Hurricane Ian, it's slowing down because of interest rates. Those rates will get better eventually. Maybe come January, we start seeing, after election period, things change. All that's going to do is bring the demand back up again. And just like Kevin said, you're going to have a frenzy fighting for the houses that are still standing, because these contractors could be taking a year, if not longer, to replace some of these homes. So
Yeah.
we're going to have a shortage of homes. We already were short homes. So the minute the markets start getting better, our demand's going to pick back up. That could be 6, 8 months. Who knows? We don't know. But I'm going to tell you, people that are buying homes right now are probably going to get a deal, right? They might have a higher rate, but the demand in 6 months is going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot harder to get that house because those rates will come down and buyers will come back out. But yeah, there's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of things people can do to get in homes. But I'm going to keep plugging what Kevin does because I know just being in this business, what's about to come down the pipe is going to be really reliant on them to make sure when you take ownership of that home, it is clear. Matt can get you insurance most likely 9 times out of 10 on a lot of stuff. We could probably get financing through, but you want to make sure that home. I just see a lot of problems. Water heater didn't have a permit pulled, and now it's going to cause this whole problem, right? Or there's an open permit, and we can't move forward. Those are things that I'm worried about coming forward when we start getting back into a crazy market.
Okay. Well, listen, it's right now 3:55. I got about 3 minutes before, so I want to kind of give you guys a chance to plug yourselves and for people, this is going to be archived, so it's going to be forever. So, wow. Go by and we'll start over there with Matthew and just kind of go down the line. Tell them who you are, what your business is, and how they can get in touch with you.
My name is Matthew Jones with Jones Family Insurance in Punta Gorda. And we've been in business for going on 7 years. You can contact us at 941-205-0191. And I will leave you with this piece right here. I hear a lot of people today right now saying, I don't have enough damage to file a claim. It's going to negatively affect my insurance history. This is a hurricane. It is catastrophic. If you were to ever file a claim, now is the time to file a claim because you don't know what is up on your roof. You don't know what is wrong with your house. So have a professional come out, like we were talking about, and have them inspect it. Do not be afraid to call and file a claim. At least open it. If there's nothing there, they'll close it out at $0 or minimal dollars. Even if you didn't meet your deductible, it will not haunt you. It is a catastrophic, and it will not negatively affect you. So that's my advice.
All right. Good advice. Good advice.
All right.
Kevin?
My name's Graham, and I own Suncoast One Title. We have 6 offices between Punta Gorda, Sarasota, Englewood, etc. But you can reach, probably the best office to reach right now is the Port Charlotte office. The number there is 941-979-8400. And one of my people will help you right now. We still have 17 people working, and we're going to get the rest of them up and working very quick. So,
well, I hope you're busy enough to keep them busy. So.
We will be. We will be. Not right now, but we will be.
All right. And Daniel.
So Daniel Hughes with Bayport Lending. I'm right here in Northport, Port Charlotte, born and raised. You can check out our website, www.bayportlending.com. I have loan officers. Actually, I just reached out into Orlando, so we have people covering all over the state. We're local right here if you have any questions. And I'm going to leave you with another little tip that I've been telling a lot of people because this happened during COVID, and I'm already seeing it, is the deferment in mortgages. Is if you're going to defer your mortgage, make sure you know what's going to come after. All the deferment will do is stop the late payments and fees. You still got to make that payment. But if you don't make that payment at the end of the term, so if they give you a 3-month forbearance and you don't make that full amount at the end of the 3 months, you're going to have to modify your loan. So if you are in any need or any help, please reach out to me. I don't care where you're at. I'll be glad to start guiding you and ask the right questions so you can get that stuff done and make sure you know what you're getting into.
All right. Good job. All right. So, guys, I do appreciate you taking your valuable time. And I sure hope, I never even asked this question, but I will trust that you are professional and you know how to fix it since you talked about it. But hopefully all of you had damage that was at least not devastating. And I don't know that. I didn't ask you, and I do apologize for that. But I do appreciate you spending your time trying to educate the people of Southwest Florida. And listen, we have listeners all over the world, and we have them all over the country. And, you know, you've witnessed through us here at WKDW 97.5 FM the devastation that and the hurricane can bring. But you also have professionals like these guys that will help you through it. So for KDWRadio.com, my name is Rich Suggs. I am in Franklin, North Carolina, but I'm heading back south. Y'all make it a little bit cooler for me, okay? Can y'all just get all that hot air out?
Right.
So, again, I'm going to sign off here on the live stream, and then I will. So, again, guys, thank you so much. And we'll talk later. All right. All right. So I am.